Hey everybody, this is David Chatham with Angel Oak Creative. We are into another installment of our Talking Tough series for our nonprofit tough theme for 2021. We're really honored today to have Arlene Brown with us. We're going to be talking tough with Arlene today. And Arlene Brown is a thinker, a planner, a mover and shaker in the nonprofit space. And you can find that on her LinkedIn page. So it's true. So I know Arlene, and Arlene is committed to this world and is making a big difference in the nonprofit community. And that's why we're speaking with her today. So welcome, Arlene.
Oh, thank you so much, David. You are so kind. Thank you for those words. And thank you for pointing people to my LinkedIn profile.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'm a huge LinkedIn fan. So
Love it.
I'm a LinkedIn nerd.
Me too. That's the only social I'm really into. I'm with you.
I know. So, well, good. Well, welcome. Arlene and I met a few months ago, I guess, kind of having some discussions about maybe some potential partnerships with Angel Oak and YNPN. And, we kind of found some commonalities there and felt like we had a really good discussion. I was like, hey, would you mind continuing this with us and record it? So Arlene graciously agreed, and here we are today. So Arlene, tell us a little bit about, I know you work as interim director or director at YNPN, the Triangle, and then also you do work with Stand Up, Speak Out North Carolina. So tell us a little bit about that, if you would, that work and kind of what you do there.
Yeah. So in my role as board chair of YNPN, and again, that's the Young Nonprofit Professionals Network of the Triangle. We're a federated body, of about 39 chapters across the nation. But here in the Triangle, we're responsible for cultivating young nonprofit professionals by providing them and fostering opportunities for skill building, resource sharing, and networking. For me, what that really means is helping young leaders, emerging leaders, step into the passion that they have all across different areas, but helping them develop professionally and personally into the leader that they want to be. And for me, it really speaks to the volume of equity, because what one leader needs is very different from what another leader needs. And for me, it's a great opportunity to really help people hone their passion and take it to the next level. In turn, I was able to take that same passion, and I connected with Monica Day and one of our team members, Ty Caldwell, at Reese City back in February of 2020. And it was crazy because before the pandemic hit and everyone had gotten off of their January kick of, I'm going to lose weight. And I brought cookies to a meeting that I had. My husband makes
I made the same mistake.
Oh my gosh. I'm like a 3-weeker. And then I'm like, this is not, I'm going to just have to get summertime, find another time.
That's right.
But my husband gave me these cookies to share with others. And the ladies were like, I think we're going to hold. But we met each other at that time. Fast forward from February of 2020 to through the pandemic, September of 2020 is when I reconnected with my amazing team, actually through, I believe it was through a newsletter. And Monica was able to bring me onto the team as the community outreach coordinator, which for me is like the best role. Because at SUSO, we're empowered to help domestic violence and sexual assault survivors and victims, and those who have either witnessed it or again experienced it, be able to move through their trauma by providing them healing through art therapy. So I get to be a megaphone for healing and empowerment in all of my spaces. And I'm just so grateful to be a leader here.
Well, that's awesome. And that's what we are going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about empowerment. As part of our nonprofit this Tough Talk series, we kind of identified 5 traits of strong nonprofit communities. And those 5 traits are that they're collaborative, that they're empowering, that they're generous, they're engaged, and they're responsive, right? So today we're going to be talking about one of those, but certainly all those overlap. But when I was reading more about Arlene and getting to know her a little better, that empowerment theme just kind of permeated through everything that you're doing. And I was like, hey, this couldn't have been better, right? So I think that was a really fortuitous opportunity that we connected with there. And, I love this idea of empowering younger nonprofit professionals, empowering women, empowering communities. And thank you for that work that you do. Tell us, tell
Absolutely.
us why. I mean, you're obviously a sharp lady, a sharp woman. You could probably do whatever you wanted to do. Why did you pick nonprofit world? I mean, you've been doing this for, it looks like, for quite a while.
Hmm.
Why did you choose to go into the nonprofit space?
Um, well, so for one, thank you very much for the compliment. And for two, for me, it was never a question, David. It was never a question about um, why this sector. I
Right.
started out as a volunteer, and I
No.
was never voluntold to volunteer. I've always had a heart for service,
Yeah.
from Girl Scouts to organizing things with family, like trunk or treating, which which kid wants to go donate cans instead of getting candy, but I was doing both. To volunteering as a captain for the Walk for Life, all of those different facets. There was never
Yeah.
any other option for me other than to be in the charitable sector, and I've fallen
Wow.
in love with all aspects of it. And although my road has not been easy in the nonprofit sector, truly it hasn't, as an ambitious Black woman, and then I'm a millennial on top of it, it's not been an easy run.
Yeah.
It's not. And I've shared with a lot of people, some of the trauma that I'm still working through related to that. But there is still, I've been in other spaces, right? I've been in corporate, and nothing wrong with corporate, and I've grown through a lot of those experiences and learned a lot. But the charitable sector, the service sector, just captured my heart and just ran off with it. I've told
That's great.
people time and again, um, the nonprofit sector, they're full of people who are my tribe, who are committed to digging in, and rolling up their sleeves in community, and not just theoretically talking about how to make the change, but they are empowered, driven, and impassioned to make the change happen.
Awesome.
Um, so identifying my tribe and knowing that these are my people, this is my sector, and I don't have any plans on leaving it.
You found your happy place.
I did. I found
That's
my
great.
place of bliss, like
Yeah.
every
That's
aspect
awesome.
of it, through the adversity and through the triumph, because there's so much that our sector is doing to change the face of so many things, so many inequities that are happening, dismantling so many things, really being a face and a voice for societal change. We can make it happen here, and yeah, I found my bliss.
Amen. Amen. So, as we talked about that empowering side of things and looking at the, all the ways that you and YMPN and SUSO are really working on that empowering side of things, why is that so important? We obviously identified it as one of the 5 key traits of a strong, a tough nonprofit community. But
Yeah.
why do you see that empowering part of it, that piece of it, being an important aspect that you spend so much time focused on that?
I pause with this one because this question comes up in a lot of different ways from a lot of different people, but it's one that really hits me in a tough spot in a good way. Um, it's important to empower leaders because empowered leaders empower other leaders. They really do. Um, when I think about this, I think about a question Monica asked me when I started my journey with our team at SUSO, and she asked me what my why was. And this is my why
Mm.
for everything, for being in the sector. And I lost it in an interview, which, like, you're not supposed to do, but she provided me this safe space. And it's because I want people to know that they're enough. They are enough. I fully believe, I really do, and I really hope that others can vouch for me that I practice what I preach, that there is intrinsic leadership value in all of us.
Yeah.
And if you can cultivate that in each person, because you see the leader within, and not just the potential, but where they are, meeting them where they are and moving that forward, that means we see the humanity, the authenticity, the bravery, the courage in
Yeah.
each other, and begin to, like, move that forward. To me, especially someone who's dealt with so much trauma and feeling like I'm not enough, and having examples of that, of almost tried to beat that into me in certain ways and in certain
Mm.
spaces in our sector, I live for that feeling of you are enough. You matter. Your voice matters, and your contribution matters. So empowering people, where they are, and kind of following off of the heels of Brene Brown, leaning into bravery and courage, and dismantling shame and guilt. It's hugely impactful, not only professionally but personally, holistically, because we are the people that are really doing the work in community to make the
Yeah.
changes to improve our world. So in really leaning into empowerment, it really speaks to enoughness, and we all are enough. You just have to be
That's
in the right
great.
place with the right leader to find that.
Well, so many people struggle with that, me included. I mean, you never feel like you measure up sometimes, and you're comparing yourself to other people, and you don't feel like you have you're empowered to make those choices or to change things. So thank you for that. It's I love the idea of when you empower leaders, you're really kind of amplifying, you're multiplying that,
Yes.
right? And I think that's
Yes.
great that, when you're influencing leaders to empower others, that you're just multiplying the impact that you can make. So
Hmm.
I love that. I think that's great. Uh, Talk about YNPN for a minute, if you would. What kind of things do you guys do that empower young nonprofit professionals? What are some of the services you provide, or what are some of the philosophies that you promote to do that?
Sure. With YMPN, again, our three areas are networking, skill building, and resource sharing, and we cover all of those bases. And I love doing this work because, again, that theme of equity, and it's not just a lens, right? It's we embody this. We try to make sure that we address those needs in a number of different ways, keeping our finger on the pulse of what is happening in the triangle, what's happening across the nonprofit sphere, in the state as well as nationally. So our programs, we do typically monthly programming that addresses 4 competencies. And you can check out those competencies on our website. But just to
Sure.
lend context, they are personal management, leadership development, technical skills, and effective communication. And we really believe, and this model actually came to us in 2017. Our hardworking group of board members created this model, which is now a national model for YMPN. But doing research, finding out from other young nonprofit professionals, as well as voices from the sector, employers and organizations and the like, they lent that information to us to help us explore those competencies. So what we do is we take that competency model and we align our programming monthly to fit those areas.
Mm,
So, as an example, if we're doing a resource roundtable, right, which is an opportunity for young professionals to come together and both commiserate. So you get that networking piece like, oh my gosh, I'm so, I'm stumped on this project, or I'm not really sure where to go. And also
right.
thought leadership around a topic. You can
Yeah.
sort of roundtable discuss solutions as well as have a subject matter expert to give you the guidance and the mentorship to improve in that area. And again, we
Yeah.
do that with all 4 of the competencies. We
Yeah.
also, of course, pepper in some opportunities to get together in a networking. We call it forced family fun, right? Like at this
Been
point
there,
with
done that. Yep.
right with Zoom, we'll do some really fun scavenger hunts or bingo or just some coffee talks, just chilling, hanging out with each other because we need that space. And in fact,
Yeah.
YMPN National was started in a bar in '97.
Oh, wow.
So you need that space and that downtime. But in terms of that networking and skill building piece, we want to make sure that again that each one teach one methodology is really applied, and we're learning leaders, right? What we're trying to do is bridge the gap from okay, we may have started entry level in the sector and we may not know a whole lot to I'm learning as I go, learning as
Yeah.
I grow, getting these skills in again these different areas, and being able to have people mentor you along the way. So that way, when we work with partners such as the NC Center for Nonprofits, who has identified there's going to be a major gap in leadership in the next few years, because a lot of our EDs are retiring, we've
Mm,
now got a gap of, not a gap, we've now got a bridge of leadership that we've built a pipeline to be able to kind of
yeah.
see that growth. So again, our programming it's very evolutionary and it's responsive to the needs of not only us as young nonprofit professionals, because yeah, we can do the soft skills and we can crowdsource what we think is needed, but we also want to be responsive proactively to the needs that are in the sector. So we're always trying to get that continual feedback from what's going on, and we address
Right.
our programs accordingly.
Great. What 2020, I think, was an understatement to say it was a tough year for a lot of people. Some people thrived. I mean, they did, but a lot of people struggled, and a
Yeah.
lot of people were faced with things that we had never been faced with before. I mean, it was a strange year, to say the least. It was a challenging year. But I think one of the kind of the phrases we've been using as we've gone into this year of what we're calling nonprofit tough, of really focusing on what it means to be a strong nonprofit, is that when the going gets tough, the tough nonprofits get going, right? That
Yeah.
they don't shrink back, they lean in. And you mentioned that leaning in a little bit. Um, what does that look like after, post, we're hopefully moving into a post-COVID time frame. I know we're not there yet, but we're getting there.
Right.
What is, what are one or two lessons that you saw that maybe could be taken from this time that can be used when, thank God, when there comes a day we don't have a pandemic going on, that are related to that, nonprofit tough, that empowering, right?
Mm-hmm. The biggest thing first and foremost, I would say, and this is a theme it was coming up before COVID, but it's even more so now, resilience and self-care.
Yeah.
Because you cannot pour from an empty cup. You just can't. And the work that we do and the demands on organizations in our sector is even higher now, right? Because families have additional needs. Communities that were originally and marginalized are even more so in certain spaces, even though now there's a heightened awareness on serving. But we're now trying to figure out how to address those things. But in order to really deliver the work well, you got to take care of yourself. And I think that from the empowerment, there's that word, right? It's a natural word.
Good,
From the empowerment and the installation of that as a core concept from Stand Up Speak Out, right? Because my team, oh gosh, I love my team. We are so dedicated to making sure that we take care of ourselves. Because in order to be better for our communities, we have to be the model of that for ourselves. So resilience and self-care is critical. The other thing is, like you said, leaning in, and it's leaning in all ways. Now, more than ever, I think it's a time for people to show up authentically as who you are, because Mama says, when people show you who they are, believe them. Oh yeah. So now when we allow people to truly come to the
things get
table,
real.
right? And that's what we need. That's transformative change that we're talking about in the sector, and that's what we need post 2020 and post this pandemic, because we've been talking about this whole new normal or going back to normal. Nobody wants to go back to that. Nobody wants to go back to that. We need transformation, and we need things to get real. So in order for things to get real, number one, you have to take care of yourself, right? And know what real feels like, and then be able to step into all of that, and not asking permission for it. Of course, being mindful and respectful, right? Because we never want to forget that. We never want to, displace respect for striving for excellence and transformation. But those two things to me are key in us being able to really move through the issues, the trials, the tribulations that have come up in the last year, and in order to create the transformation that we are all so deeply and so passionately seeking for post-COVID.
Yeah, well said. It's that idea too of, we want people to be nonprofit tough, but we don't want them to be inauthentic either. When they're struggling, they need to talk about struggling, right? And it's not being tough. Tough isn't about hiding who you are or about hiding what you're feeling. It's about acknowledging that, gaining the people around you who can help you work through it, and then persevering through it, right? So we're by no means are we suggesting that nonprofit tough, it's just, you just grit it out and do it and don't worry about anything. Where it's certainly that balance of, to your point, making sure you're taken care of, making sure those around you are taken care of, and then leaning in and moving forward with the power that comes of really approaching it together, right? And I think that to me is part of what I've learned is, it's trite, it's overused, but we are really better together.
We truly are.
Again, it's, everybody says it's overused, but it's true. If we, I couldn't have gotten through this time alone. I know those around me that just coming together and supporting each other at Angel Oak. We had some challenges to face when COVID hit, and helping our clients and moving quickly and being flexible and, all of those things. And, we just saw, as we came together, it didn't change the circumstances, but it changed our view of it and helped us to move forward. So COVID didn't go away, but we just said, you know what, COVID's here. We're not going to go hide in a corner somewhere. Let's lean into it, and let's make the best out of it we can, and lift those up around us. And it was funny, I don't know if you recall, but last year, Angel Oak had denoted last year as the year of encouragement. And this was before COVID hit. So as we
Timely.
got there, we're like, wow, we felt like we had really, kind of predicted something, but it was all coincidence. And, well, I don't know if I believe in coincidence, but it was all kind of ordained to become this opportunity to talk about how do we encourage each other. So coming out of that, we thought this nonprofit tough would be an interesting next phase of kind of that discussion.
I am so here for that, David. Really quick, if I could kind of like,
oh no, please.
yeah, piggyback off of that. What you shared kind of hit on for me, like vulnerability and that piece, because when we think of, like you said, nonprofit tough grit, right? Like just getting on through. And what was unearthed this past year was, like you said, at the top, we had a year of encouragement because 2020 vision, right? Like we all came in like, oh, we're going to lift each other up. This is going to be great. We're going to like smash our goals. And we did in a different way. The
Right.
goals that we may have set for our organizations were different than what I think the world probably needed, right? The world turned up things, and things were unearthed that we probably needed to walk through and deal with that we didn't anticipate. So it
We had
was
to
the
do a
year,
reset, right?
right? It
Yeah.
was the year of encouragement, and now we are coming out of it. But I think there's a level of vulnerability now that was exposed that had never really been there, because from certain things personally and professionally, it's like build a bridge and get over it, or it's not that big of a deal, or colloquially, it's not that serious. Not just that COVID was that serious, but people are dealing with real life stuff. I mean, just
Yeah.
so many things from, I'm sitting here in my bedroom and trying to trying to hide the clothes that I'm folded while doing work, to, moms having to take care of their kids while they're working, to, the guy that was, I think it was an attorney or something like that, and it was a law case, and it was like a guffaw or whatever on Zoom, and there was a filter and he couldn't turn off the cat filter.
Oh, the cat filter. Yeah.
Oh gosh, it was so bad. I felt so bad for him. But these are real
Funny.
life like things. So leaning into that level of vulnerability has really, really been so important. And I think it's served us all well. But in all honesty, for me, it's been a double-edged sword, really, in
Yeah.
leadership and even empowering leaders, because if I can be real candid here, up until like the last year or two, Black vulnerability hasn't been saved, or it feels like it
Mm.
hadn't been saved.
Yeah.
So being a young, ambitious leader, and then being at the top without having a whole lot of executive leadership experience, showing both my strengths and my opportunities to people and putting them out there for display is scary, but it's
Yeah.
exciting. And I'm encouraged with opportunities like this and partnerships with Angel Oak and so many others, that I can lean into it, and I can continue to empower others, because vulnerability isn't a weakness. It isn't. It
Right.
really does helps make us nonprofit tough. It really does.
Well, thank you. Well said. Yeah. It's interesting because the empowering isn't just about being empowered for today. It's really
Right.
empowering for tomorrow, when the next COVID comes, or the next disaster, or the next, issue that we're trying to deal
Mm-hmm.
with. And there are so many, and we're imperfect humans, and there always are going to be challenges and times that we fail and fall short, and don't treat people well and do all those things. And we just really understanding that when we're empowering people, it's not just for today, it's for that next issue that comes up, that next COVID, that next crisis, and really how can they then be better prepared
Yes.
for that time. So I think that's great. So and kind of wrapping up here, and all of that to me was all about empowerment, all that you said. So thank you for that. And so what advice would you give young nonprofit professionals to help them grow and develop, become, if you use the word tougher, to become nonprofit tough? What advice would you give them from your experience and from your your exposure to YNPN and other places?
Hmm. Gosh, I've got a short lifetime full of things.
Well,
Um, don't let any circumstance define you, for one. Because I've been almost like a caged bird in certain spaces, not able to completely spread my wings. Um, but for whatever reason, and for in any way, I was able to find my way out. And I am soaring. Do not let a circumstance define who you are.
that's
Stand
right.
in your enoughness.
Mm,
Sometimes we can do something and um, walk into it with as much fear as we can imagine, right? And shaking underneath the desk. And some days I am. walk forward anyway. Stand in your enoughness. Um,
Yeah.
Another thing that I would impart is don't be afraid to ask the tough questions or ask the questions that you think are dumb.
Yeah.
Because there's a dumb question that somebody else is waiting to ask and they're afraid to ask it. We always say the thing that there's no such thing as a dumb question. There honestly isn't. So I'm just going to name that we say it's dumb, but it's really not. Do not be afraid to ask the question. Always remain curious, because when you are curious that way, it shows interest, it shows engagement, it shows that you're locked in, and it shows that you're a learning leader.
Yeah.
And I think most of all, just make sure you show up as your entire self at any given point in time. Not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to love you. You're not, I'm whiskey in a teacup. I really am.
Yeah.
And if,
Well,
if that works for you,
but you
that's
go
great.
down smooth,
I
Arlene. You go down
do.
smooth.
Well, thank you. And if that works for some, that's fantastic. Let's roll together. And if that doesn't, it doesn't mean we're dismissive. It just means that, there's a time and a place for you, and there's always a space. Stand
Yeah.
in that and make sure you are always exactly who you are, because there's always a place for you. And there's always a
Great
place for you at
advice.
YNPN.
Great advice. Yeah. Speaking of that, how can people learn more about YNPN and about Stand Up, Speak Out North Carolina? Where can they learn more about that?
Sure. So you started off at the top, David, when you gave my LinkedIn profile. So to
Okay.
find out both organizations, you can actually go to my LinkedIn profile, and you can click on both of the links. But just to kind of make it clearer, for YNPN, you would go to www.ynpntrianglenc.org. Again, because there are so many chapters.
Yeah.
And there you can find out all about us, all about our programs. You can definitely look into that competency model to see, hey, I'm really strong here and maybe I need some support here, and check out how we're going to take you from where you are to where you want to grow.
Right.
Additionally, you can follow our journey, because we are very responsive again to what's going on in our sector, and how we're going to make transformative moves there. Additionally, with SUSO, Stand Up Speak Out of North Carolina, to find us, you would go to www.susonc.org, and likely you can follow our journey there. Also, I'm going to throw out a plug. We are actually having an event on the 18th of this month,
Okay.
depending on when that's shared,
Yeah.
David. But
Yeah.
we're doing a trivia night. So we also
Oh,
like to
nice.
have fun and build community. But this is a great opportunity to learn more about Stand Up Speak Out, our programs, and how we're providing both direct care services and building community to empower us to do the work that we do. Again, that's on Thursday, March 18th, and you can
Neat.
check us out there.
Yeah, well, definitely send us that information and we'll share it through Angel Oak as well. So,
Awesome. Thank
well,
you.
well, Arlene, thank you so much for your time. This was fun and informational and encouraging, and I love your spirit. I love your desire to continue to empower our nonprofit leaders, our young nonprofit leaders in our community, and the women that you serve at Stand Up, Speak Out North Carolina. So, thank you for that, and just wish you all the best, and look forward to staying in touch and keeping up with you as you continue to think, plan, move, and shake.
Thank you so much, David. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.